Breaking news, Kamala Harris manages to ruffle feathers yet again, this time with our friends in Israel. After a 40-minute meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Kamala Harris emerged to address the media. Her comments have sparked significant controversy, especially among Israeli officials. Harris stated that while Israel has the right to defend itself, she would not stay silent on the deaths and suffering in Gaza. She also called on Israel to end the war, which has been ongoing for nearly 10 months, with over 100 hostages still being held by terrorists. These comments, however, did not sit well with Israeli officials. The Times of Israel reported concerns that Harris's words could harm the potential for a ceasefire and hostage release deal. This is a critical issue, as the situation in the Middle East remains highly volatile and sensitive. Israel's ongoing conflict with Hamas has been marked by intense violence and complex political maneuvering. The recent extraction by the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, of 5 bodies of individuals murdered on October 7th highlights the brutal reality on the ground. These bodies were hidden in tunnels within Gaza, and their retrieval required months of intelligence work. This incident underscores the difficulty and complexity of the war that Israel is prosecuting against Hamas. Kamala Harris's comments seem to disregard these complexities. Her call for an end to the war, without acknowledging the intricate and dangerous work being done by Israeli forces, comes off as naive at best and dangerously ignorant at worst. Israeli officials argue that her remarks reflect a growing chorus from the Democratic Party that lacks a fundamental understanding of the situation. The backlash from Israeli officials was swift. They argue that Harris's statements are not only unhelpful, but could potentially undermine ongoing efforts to secure a ceasefire and facilitate hostage releases. The timing of her remarks is particularly problematic, coming as Prime Minister Netanyahu is in the United States meeting with various officials, including former President Trump and current President Biden. Harris's comments have been perceived as a lack of support for Israel's right to defend itself against a terror army. This perception is dangerous, especially considering the recent operations by the IDF to locate and retrieve the bodies of the murdered individuals. Such operations highlight the ongoing threats that Israel faces and the necessity of its military actions. Prime Minister Netanyahu's recent address to Congress was seen as a significant moment. He is regarded as one of the most talented orators in Israeli history, and his speech was a masterclass in defending Israel's position. He spoke passionately about the bravery of Israeli soldiers, the justification for the war against Hamas, and the urgent need to return hostages. However, some observers noted that his address did not introduce new information, suggesting that the real work is being done behind closed doors. Netanyahu's meetings with U.S. officials, including President Biden and Vice President Harris, are crucial. These interactions are not just about public statements, but also involve critical discussions about the future of Israel's security and its strategy regarding Gaza and Iran. Harris's comments, therefore, could not have come at a worse time, potentially jeopardizing these delicate negotiations. As Netanyahu continues his visit to the U.S., protests have erupted in several locations. Demonstrations outside the Capitol and other areas have seen defacing of statues, fires, and flag burnings. Netanyahu dismissed many of these protesters as being uninformed about what they are protesting. However, the frequency and intensity of these protests are concerning, reflecting a broader anti-Israel sentiment among certain groups. The protests also highlight a generational divide. Many of the protesters are young adults, the same age as those who would be serving in the Israeli Defense Forces if they were in Israel. This contrast underscores the different realities faced by young people in the U.S. compared to those in Israel. The dismissive attitude towards these protesters by some officials may be too generous, as their actions and sentiments could shape future U.S. policy. Harris's remarks have not only stirred controversy in Israel, but also have significant implications for her political standing in the U.S. Her comments have been criticized for lacking nuance and understanding of the complex situation in the Middle East. This controversy could impact her credibility and effectiveness in handling international relations if she were to assume a higher office in the future. Netanyahu's meeting with Trump is equally important. Trump's administration was marked by significant pro-Israel actions, including recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and moving the U.S. embassy there. Mending the relationship with Trump, who was disappointed with Netanyahu's quick congratulatory call to Biden in 2020, is crucial for maintaining strong U.S.-Israel relations. Harris's approach to foreign policy, particularly regarding Israel, has been criticized for being out of touch with the realities on the ground. Her comments reflect a broader issue within the Democratic Party, where there is a growing divide over support for Israel. This divide could have long-term implications for U.S. foreign policy and its role in the Middle East. Harris's political career has been marked by controversy and criticism. Her tenure as California's Attorney General and later as a U.S. Senator saw her taking positions that were often seen as contradictory. This inconsistency has followed her into her role as Vice President, where her handling of complex issues has been questioned. The U.S.-Israel relationship is a cornerstone of American foreign policy. Any statements or actions that undermine this relationship can have significant repercussions. Harris's comments, seen as insensitive and poorly timed, risk straining this critical alliance. This is especially concerning given the ongoing conflict in Gaza and the broader geopolitical challenges in the region. So what do you think, folks? Should Kamala Harris keep her thoughts to herself, or is she just adding fuel to the fire? Are you ready to trust her with delicate international issues when her comments could potentially derail critical negotiations and harm our strongest allies? Comment below and let us know if you're ready to take that risk.